Hi, I'm Matt from Tubby Tarot. Welcome back to my channel. How much would you pay for a deck? A deck of tarot cards. Let's just deal with tarot cards. Let's not look at any of the other cards. How much would you pay for a deck of tarot cards? And why would you pay that? I have got a lot of tarot decks in my collection. You can see there's a lot. Okay, I've done a deck collection um, video where I've gone through everything. I will link it down below in the description, and you can, if you haven't already watched it, go and watch it. It's pretty cool. It's also my most watched video on the channel, so go and have a look at it. It's quite long, but I think you'll be interested. I have a lot of decks, and decks are not cheap. You know it, and I know it. Even the cheap decks are expensive, okay? In my country, decks are also very, very hard to find. We import all our decks. We don't have, not that I know of, and I mean, I've been around for years, not that I know of, we don't have any local tarot decks that have been created in South Africa. If anybody out there knows of one, please let me know, because that is one I would like to purchase. I don't buy decks anymore, however, because they are very expensive, and I cannot just keep buying decks to do reviews. It doesn't work financially, and then they end up sitting on my shelf, even though I adore all my decks. I do, however, feel that a lot of decks are very, very overpriced. Now, please, I'm not knocking any deck creators or publishers or printers or anything like that. However, I am saying that many decks are hugely overpriced for what you are getting. I would set a goal or set a ceiling as to how much I would pay for a deck. I would not pay, I'm going to use rands. If you'd like to convert this, please do, because it would be very interesting for you to see the difference between your money and my money, and how expensive my money actually is when I've got to buy stuff. So I would never spend 500 Rand on a deck, okay? I would never spend more than 500 Rand on a deck, because I feel that is spending a lot of money, okay? Many years ago, the most I spent on a deck was 700 Rand, and it killed me, because it wasn't even a really fantastic deck. In fact, it was one of these little witch decks that I've got, one of those big ones there, but it's one of the witch decks that I've got. And it's great, but the quality is not that fantastic, and I think I was ripped off, okay? But I would buy a deck if it's under 500 Rand. Now, you've seen the conversion. Okay, I actually did it for you on the screen. Would you spend lots and lots of money on a deck? And comment down below, tell me your most expensive deck, and then tell me your cheapest deck. Don't go into too much detail. I know most of the decks that were out there. So most expensive deck, a quick little tell me why you got it, and your cheapest deck, why did you get it? I find that with decks, you don't have to have the most expensive, avant-garde, hand-drawn, gold-plated, edged deck to have a good reading. In fact, I find, and I'm sure many of you will find this as well, the more elaborate a deck is, the less clarity you're going to get out of it. Have you found that? I sometimes do. Also, if you have decks that are too ornate, especially with the gilding and the gold leaf and all that sort of thing, they're very, very difficult to shuffle. Also, I would never take that deck and riffle shuffle it, because I'd be terrified of damaging it, okay? Some of my decks I don't even want to hand over hand shuffle, because I'm terrified that the gold flakes and it will come off. But I know that I've paid a lot of money for decks that I don't use. Simply bought them because of the artwork and because of the gold leaf and the edging and that sort of thing. So those are fine, but still, I don't want to pay more than 500 Rand for a deck. And in South Africa, as I said, all the decks are imported, so you're paying import tax as well as like the deck price, okay? So where in America you would pay, say, $25 for a deck, here in South Africa I'd pay like 800 Rand, like massive amounts of money. I suppose you can't put a price on something that you love. So if it's a deck that you've pined over and honestly, just you've fallen absolutely hopelessly in love with this deck, and you have to have it in your collection, you have to have it in your grubby little paws, then I'd say, okay, you know what? Maybe give in to your sort of baser feelings and buy the deck for yourself. Okay. My thing with very expensive decks is this. I look at it. I have to buy all my decks online. So I look at it, research it a bit, go onto YouTube, who's done a little bit of a review, is it something that's good quality, that's the thing. Then I put it aside, put it out of my mind, and in a week's time, I will come back to that deck and I will look at it. And yes, I know it's very expensive, but if my heart is absolutely set, I might then buy it. I will never make, and I've done this before, which is why I've learned my lesson, I will never make like an instant decision on buying a deck. I've done that before and I've been burnt so badly. I spent a lot of money and I've got crap back. Decks that are shocking quality, or decks that were just such a horrifying surprise when I got them. It's like crazy. So what is it about decks that make them so expensive? I think it's got to do with the artwork more than anything. I have done a video on deck pricing and that, so go and have a look at that, find it somewhere. But I think that for me, spending huge amounts of money now, I would rather buy a book. I think I would get more value from a book than adding another box of cards to my collection. Having said that, if you are someone who perhaps is just starting out with tarot reading and you really do want to start a collection, all right? I'm not talking about somebody who's only got one deck and is happy to use that deck for the next forever, okay? I'm talking about someone who wants to start a tarot deck collection or any card deck collection. That is where you are going to look at pricing very carefully. Look at the quality of what you're going to get for that price. If the deck is very expensive, go and do a bit of research. Don't equate expensive with good. As I say, I've got one or two expensive decks here that are, or one or two of them are crap, okay, that I would never use. The card quality is really bad, the stock is really bad, that sort of thing. So if you are going to start a collection, look at the prices of cards very carefully, because often you can purchase a cheaper, more reasonable. Cheap is awful. I always equate cheap with being a whore. So you get cheap whores, but you get reasonably priced tarot cards. No offense to any whores out there. But you understand what I'm saying. You don't have to have the most expensive deck to have a really good deck. I find that a lot of the cheaper decks out there are just as cool to use to read. You have to weigh it up. I personally think that the horror of tarot deck prices is a bit of a scam. So as I said to you, I personally am not prepared to pay more than 500 Rand, South African Rand, for a deck. What would your top price be? Do you think that it's a rip-off, that the prices of decks are a rip-off? And if you do, as I say, comment down below. Tell me your most expensive, your cheapest. And maybe also say to me why you think that it's some of them are a rip-off. Or don't you? Are you happy to spend massive amounts of money on tarot decks? Especially if you're doing a collection of tarot decks. I'm not talking really to people who are just one deck or two deck wonders and use that as actual reading decks. That's great. I wish I could do that, but I'm obsessive compulsive. Fucking have to have everything. Okay, guys, think about it. What is your limit? And I hopefully as a parting word, I'm hoping that you will set a limit, okay, and not just spend willy-nilly. Okay, on that note, I'm Nat from Tubby Tarot, and I will see you on the flip side. Hi, thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to go and like and subscribe, and check out some more of my videos in my playlists.